Welcome to Obscured Reality with Mark and Stephanie. From UFO sightings to the lost city of Atlantis, from alien encounters to the living dead, each episode will leave you questioning reality. If you're ready to explore the eerie, tune in to Obscured Reality, where mysteries come alive.
Twinkle, little star. Oh shit! Welcome back to Obscured Reality. Sorry guys, I was just singing a Twinkle song. We're back. Stevie, Mark, we're here. How is it hanging, Stevie?
It's hanging.
Good. That one wasn't to catch you off guard. That was just a segue.
It definitely was.
No, not at all. It was a segue right in the beginning. Oh, how's your week been? That says enough. Sounds like my week.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For very different reasons, probably, but yes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, twinkle, twinkle, little star, honey. Do you like stars? You look up at the stars a lot? You even see any stars out there? Do they have them in Indiana?
We probably have more than you do in California, surprisingly.
Depends on.
Ours just happen to be in the sky and not like implanted in the streets, so.
Jealousy coming through. Well,
nah, I've already seen your stars in the streets.
Tonight we're going to talk about some weird stars in the sky. These stem from a government project called Project Twinkle.
Project Twinkle. Ooh.
Yeah, Project Twinkle. Yes, Project Twinkle. Well, a long time ago, in a land not too far away, people were seeing green fucking fireballs in the sky. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. This is where Project Twinkle came about. So, we got some points to make in here as well. Okay. We're gonna have to think forward as well to current day UFO UAP sightings and, well, the government / military entities that are involved or are not involved or are very mum about everything and allegedly don't investigate any of this stuff and never have. But we'll get to it real quick here right in the beginning. Yeah. So, late 40s. So Project Twinkle. This was an investigation. It began in 1950 into reports from late 1948 to 1951 of the appearance of green fireballs in the general area of Holloman Air Force Base and Vaughn.
Imagine that. It's an Air Force base.
Yep.
Look at that.
And Vaughn, New Mexico. Now, well, just start out by saying these were seen around an Air Force base. Now, I'm not saying that because it's a military installation. I'm saying it because it's the Air Force. Okay?
Who is notoriously mum about shit like this.
Everything. Yeah, they haven't said crap about any of the stuff that's been going on. So, I'm sure they have nothing to do with any of this. I'm sure they didn't investigate.
No.
We'll read on and find out they probably didn't. We'll see. So, the Project Twinkle, it was conducted by the Air Materiel Command, or AMC, and Air Research and Development Command, or ARDC, and headed by Lincoln La Paz, a meteor specialist who became convinced that the fireballs were not natural phenomena. However, as a memo to the commanding general of AMC dated September 15, 1950, points out, quote, "It may be considered significant that the fireballs have ceased abruptly as soon as a systematic watch was set up."
Ooh.
So that person's saying, hey, as soon as we set up stuff to start looking at this stuff, to start looking for it, everything,
it just went away.
It just stopped.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Green
Convenient.
fireballs. Yeah, imagine that. You know, we're gonna get there. Wow. Whoa.
Sorry.
Damn. we're gonna get there, but think about this in two different aspects. Okay, think of it from the possibility of an alien aspect or a human aspect. Okay, I'd say it's not natural phenomena, most likely.
No.
But we're left with two things, really one main thing, which is human, but the possibility of alien, okay? So we have already this guy saying that, it seems like it may be significant that these sightings just ceased as soon as we set up a system to watch it, So think if we were going to Mars for our first time, we didn't know, but there was life there. And we're orbiting around Mars in a capsule. We got like 5 people on board, and we even have something we can get down there on and fly around. We don't even have to land, right? And let's say this capsule can move around in space. It can move around within the atmosphere of Mars. It can move around underwater on Mars, right?
Ooh.
And we see that there's life. And we're like, oh, shoot. Okay, we're going to be careful about what we do. So we enter the atmosphere coming in fast. We're looking like a fireball. We find places to hide and all that. We don't know what these creatures there would be, what life there is. We don't know the language, how it communicates, any of that.
Yeah.
We're not necessarily going to know, unless we're just an all-knowing being, if, who, when, where they're setting up stuff, equipment, or whatever their technology is to watch us and say, oh, they're watching us on the other side of Mars. Boom, let's stop. It just doesn't make sense. But, let's move on. So green fireballs are a type of UFO that has been reported since the early 1950s. Early sightings primarily occurred in the southwestern United States, particularly in New Mexico. Although some ufologists and ufology organizations consider green fireballs to be of artificial extraterrestrial origin, mainstream non-pseudoscientific explanations have been provided, including natural bolides. So, early observations of green fireballs date back to 1948, New Mexico, and they include reports from 2 plane crews, 1 civilian, and the other military on the night of December 5th, 1948. So that's all in one night.
Interesting.
These crews described the observed fireballs as a bright green ball of fire and like a huge green meteor. On December 8th, another aerial observation, so 3 days later, of a green fireball was reported by 2 pilots in a letter to the U.S. Air Force dated December 20th. Lincoln LaPaz, the astronomer from University of New Mexico, he wrote that the observed objects were atypical of meteors. On January 13th, 1949, the director of Army Intelligence and 4th Army Headquarters in Texas wrote that the green fireballs may be the result of radiological warfare experiments by a foreign power, and that they are of such great importance, especially as they are occurring in the vicinity of sensitive installations, that a scientific board should study the situation. Now, they're not talking about the Sitch from Jersey. That guy, he's been popping up on TikTok. Well, not him, but some of the roasts, like the roast of Donald Trump came up and the Sitch was there and everyone hated him. They were booing him. And
I love the roast.
Was hilarious.
That was probably the best thing Comedy Central has ever put out.
One of the best.
Nah, just watching rich people roast each other and whoever the fuck it roast is about, it's just like the savagery. I'm
about to roast a Celsius.
Oh, is it our flavor? Not a sponsor, but
damn right.
Always an opportunity, Celsius.
Yep. So, yeah, true. So we're seeing already five different people in one night, and incredible people. What would be considered credible people. Okay, I'm not going to go into my whole opinion on that, but there is something to it. But very credible people. So a February 1949 conference. Now we're going to start seeing some names we recognize, people, places. So keep this in mind, because this is a long time ago too. February 1949 conference at Los Alamos, attended by members of Project Sign, scientists including Joseph Kaplan and Edward Teller, and military personnel was unable to identify the origin of the green fireballs. Secret conferences at Los Alamos and elsewhere later in 1949 and addressing green fireballs were also claimed by Edward Ruppelt and ufologists, including Jerome Clark, to have convened. In December 1949, Project Twinkle, a network of green fireball observation and photographic units, was established but never fully implemented. So they started setting up some ways of observation of this phenomena, but they didn't fully implement it. It was discontinued 2 years later with the official conclusion that the phenomena were likely natural in origin. The theoretical astrophysicist and UFO skeptic Donald Menzel claimed to have observed in May 1949 a green fireball near Alamogordo, which he later considered to be an ordinary meteor. Green fireballs have more recently been observed in Japan, Australia, West Virginia, and Tennessee. Some ufologists consider green fireballs to be of artificial, extraterrestrial origin. Along with meteors, bolides, other scientific explanations include, wow, I have never seen that word, sequelae, Sequuelae. I have never. Include sequelae of atomic weapons tests, including clouds of nuclear fallout, lunar material ejected from meteor impacts on the moon's surface, and aircraft associated with secret military projects. There is our most likely explanation, but not necessarily aircraft. So we're seeing some real big familiarities here. We have Los Alamos, Project Sign, Edward Teller, Edward Ruppelt. Donald Menzel sounds familiar, but we also got Alamogordo. There's a lot of places and people being listed here. Okay. Now, let's go into some other stuff. This isn't going to be too long of a show, but we're going to go into some stuff here and look at some documents. You want to look at some documents?
Hell yeah, let's look at some documents.
All right. Hey, you want to hit me up with a like, share, subscribe? I'm going to get this set up for us here.
Yeah, definitely like, share, comment, subscribe. Send us an email at obscuredr1@gmail.com if you have any obscured stories of your own. Look at you, you're all set up. Please give us an email if you have any stories, UAPs, strange incidents that has happened to you, lights in the sky. We would love to hear it, whether you would like to come on personally and tell your story, or if you would like to have us tell your story so you can stay anonymous. It's up to you. Either way, we would love to hear from you and prefer that you would be on the show, but either way.
Yep.
Yep.
True that. All right. Well, these first two we're not really going to go much into. We're just going to, look at it real quick. Here's a letter from back then, February 1952. This is just a copy of a letter. Well, attached is a copy of a letter from the Air Research and Development Command requesting declassification of Project Twinkle, project which was carried out by AMC and ARDC. So we went over all that from, Holloman Air Force Base and Vaughn, New Mexico. The Scientific Advisory Board has suggested that this project not be declassified for a variety of reasons, among which is that no scientific explanation for any of the fireballs and other phenomena was revealed by the report, and that some reputable scientists still believe that the observed phenomena are man-made. Now, I find that line kind of interesting. They say some reputable scientists still believe that the observed phenomena are man-made. The way that reads to me, the way that comes off to me, is that most of them probably do not believe that it's man-made, but there's still some that think it might be. And therefore, that may be a bigger threat. So we don't want to declassify that because that might be a bigger threat. Could be if it's man-made, and we know it's not ours. Same thing we're dealing with now. Then that means it's someone else's, and that could be a matter of national security.
Yep.
And other things. So that tells me right there that the other scientists, which are probably more than just these few remaining ones, believe it's probably not man-made. So let's move on to the next document here. This one's going to be a little harder to read. So, I mean, this is old. Looks like it's been copied quite a few times.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But we don't have to read this whole thing anyway. So
it is not considered appropriate to declassify
carefully
the project
reviewed.
at this time, since no definite conclusion.
Oh, are you going to read it? If you're going to read it into the microphone.
I was just reading.
Otherwise, I can't. I can't. So, I mean, there's not much to read here, but I want to point out this project right here in the middle under number 2 says this project is part of a larger program, which is known as Project Grudge. We've all heard of Project Grudge. Project Grudge is still in the investigation analysis stage and has not yet been thoroughly evaluated till such time, blah, 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 blah. So just wanted to point that out. They're talking about Project Grudge in here. But moving on, let's get to the rest of this. We're going to go to the last one here. And this is a bit longer. But I've highlighted some things in here I think are interesting. For a reason. I think you'll see why. And this is to prove a point. All to prove a point. Don't read. We got to go back to the top.
Ooh,
there's a lot.
Lordy.
Yeah, a lot of pages.
Oh,
that's why I went through and
highlighted.
That's why I went through and highlighted stuff because we don't need all of this.
No.
So, let's see. On August 9th, 1951, the situation was discussed with Lieutenant Colonel Cox of the 17th OSI District, Kirtland Air Force Base. So here we have another Air Force Base, Kirtland Air Force Base. It was discussed with a colonel from Kirtland Air Force Base. That would mean he's part of the Air Force. Okay. But the Air Force has nothing to do with any of this. We already know that, right? Most of the reports originated from personnel at Los Alamos. Okay. Again, Los Alamos, and a lot of these reports coming from there. Los Alamos, we know, contracts, they do a shit ton of work for the government. They have had, at least in the past, dealings at, Nellis, Area 51, all that stuff. So, let's move on. March 14th, 1951, 9 Bell, the company Bell, 9 Bell personnel reported sighting between 14 and 20 bodies, not unlike a flock of geese. Okay, so like a flock of geese? we can shorten that and say like a flock of geese. I'm not quite sure what they're trying to say there, but
maybe
just flying in a pattern. V? Yeah, flying in a pattern like a flock of geese is what I'm guessing.
That would have been much better phrasing, but whatever. Here we are.
Yeah, how about flying in a V formation? Come on.
Lingo.
On July 9th, a red glowing ball was sighted by a sergeant stationed at the Corona Experimental Radar Site at Corona, New Mexico. All right. Moving on. I told you, we're going to skip a lot of this. August 28, 1951, the subject was discussed informally with Dr. Lincoln LaPaz, who expressed disbelief in all aerial phenomena except for the green fireballs. Their recent origin, 1947, and peculiar trajectories did not permit, according to Dr. LaPaz, time to be classed as natural phenomena. The most recent that has come to his attention occurred over Detroit on July 7th, 1951. It crossed the city from northwest to southeast with a sharply descending trajectory, which leveled out and was observed by many residents of the city. Dr. La Paz expressed the opinion that the fireballs may be of our own military origin, but if not, they are a matter of serious concern.
I can't even think of a Air Force base around Detroit right now. Like, seriously trying to rack my brain.
You don't need one there for this to be.
I know, but it just they seem to happen a lot by Air Force bases, so that's why I was like, that's a little one off that it's in Detroit, of all places, versus like by the Air Force base like the rest of them, or Air Force base. That's just threw me off a little bit. That's why I was like, is there an Air Force base close by?
Could all depend, what's around even the state. Who knows? I mean, it was probably seen in other places, maybe just not reported. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious what makes them say possibly of our own military origin. But that does make sense as well, because most of this is all being seen around military bases, just like today. It's all, not all, but a lot of it is being seen around military bases. So, I mean, the first common sense answer is it's probably ours. And if it's not ours, it's someone else spying on our shit. But we'd be doing something about it if it was that blatant,
I mean, would we really? Because how long ago do we have a Chinese spy balloon floating across our country? Until someone finally was like, hey, what's that?
True, but they already had good cameras and everything looking at that thing, and they already knew that it didn't really pose much of a threat. From what they were able to see, I mean, they've already got from satellites. Like, it was pointless. They're just testing us to see, how big of bastards we're going to be to them. That's all. But so we move on. It appears that balloon observations, especially, are responsible for a large number of the reports. So it sounds like they have verified at that point that some of these sightings have been balloons. I don't know how you go from a green fireball to a balloon. We see right above it, it says, undoubtedly, a good many of the observations reported are attributable to ordinary man-made objects such as airplanes, balloons, smoke rockets, etc. I mean, I've never seen a green fireball, but something tells me a green fireball doesn't look like an airplane, balloon, or smoke rockets. So there's got to be more to this. There's something else going on here as well, sounds like. So the statistics show that of the 72 observations reported, 45 occurred when the moon was up and 27 when it was down, with many of the observations occurring at the time of the moon's first quarter. Well, what does many mean? How many? From the statistical study, Dr. Whipple suggests that the existence of moonlight is correlated with the phenomena. Good. Now we at least see someone digging in a little and going, okay, what else is happening?
I mean,
what other types of things in space, in the weather, in the atmosphere, what other things are happening? Let's start getting that data down. What's happening? What are the conditions at the times these are seen? And is there any correlations, So that's good. And, could have something to do with it, could not have something to do with it. Who knows?
It truly makes sense. I mean, if it was, beings from outer space, I would definitely probably try to take the path of darkness. Like, I don't know, just kind of checking out a new planet, kind of don't want to be seen. I don't know. So I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, we've always heard there's stories of alleged alien bases, possibly even human bases, on the far side of the moon and all that. Mm-hmm. So, if these guys are able to travel that fast, blah, 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 and they have some type of systems to keep an eye on their people in their little spaceships when they come down here, they have some systems on the moon to keep track of them. Yeah, that could make sense. When the moon's facing that side, they're going to send them down because they want to look at our military bases. Sure, whatever. It should be noted that Dr. Whipple made a careful study of meteor photographs taken in New Mexico on 35 nights when observations were reported. None of the photographs revealed the presence of unusual sky phenomena. No further fiscal expenditure be made in pursuing the problem. This opinion is prompted partly by the fruitless expenditure during the past year, the uncertainty of existence of unexplainable aerial objects, and by the inactive position currently taken by Holloman Air Force Base, as indicated by the standby statue of the project. The inactive position currently taken by Holloman Air Force Base. Imagine that. Air Force seems a little inactive with this whole thing today as well.
Yeah.
I guess
see a trend.
We shouldn't be surprised. So here are some reports. We can. I highlighted the ones that weren't. Some of them at least that weren't really debunked. January 12th, 1951, a report from 10 Los Alamos employees. A tear-shaped object with a small tail, very bright appearance, descended slowly. Sky lighted up for about 1 hour? 1 minute?
About
Whoa,
1
second. 1 second. Sorry, guys. I got this on 2 screens. It's not as big on the one I'm looking at, with the highlight on there. It kind of blended in. Yeah, who are you whistling at? There a hot guy
cat.
walking by?
No,
okay,
my cat.
okay.
She's meowing at me.
We got to explain to these guys because they can't see your cat.
Look.
Hey, guys out there.
Fucker.
Ain't the first time you whistled at pussy. Whoa,
that's what I'm getting from across the room, so I psst at her. She's a talker. Okay. She wants to just put her opinion in on her stuff.
Yeah, well, last time we got her butt.
Yeah, I was trying to hide her butthole this time.
So,
some modesty.
About 1 second. I'm curious on the time of this. 10 employees.
Observation time says 500 hours. So
yeah, so that's going to be 5 a.m.
5 a.m.
So my guess is dark.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know how they know it was an object with a small tail and it was tear-shaped. Because I would imagine you're only seeing light.
I'm assuming maybe like if it was a lit up object, they could see the shape of it. And maybe the tail was like a vapor trail. I don't know.
Who knows? I mean, more detail would be good. You'd think they'd be going for more detail on this stuff.
No.
All right. So March 12th, 1951, a report from Albuquerque, New Mexico by 2 individuals of ball-shaped object, shining white appearance. The object descended rapidly to the horizon. Okay. It wasn't, at least in here, didn't state in here that it was debunked. That could be a few things we already know about. April 1st, April Fool's, 1951, report from a Los Alamos employee, an oblong-shaped object moving slowly, both in horizontal and vertical directions, bright appearance. I'd like to know the time on this. That almost sounds, that could be easily a weather balloon.
Yeah.
And we know the shape gets distorted at the different altitudes because of pressure, lack of pressure, those types of things. June 7th, 1951, a report from a Los Alamos employee, again, a pointed cylinder in a vertical position, cloth-like construction, fell into a canyon at 11:10 a.m. Search party was...
You know what also is a cylinder shape with a point? A teardrop.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Probably similar or same object.
Yeah, very similar. Yeah. That's interesting.
The search party was unable to find the object or any remains. So this is nice. 11:10 a.m. So we know there's light. So you definitely can say, okay, this guy wasn't just seeing light. He clearly described something. Sounds like he saw an actual object. Interesting that this was a cylinder shape, but it was in a vertical position. So, imagine an airplane facing up and down.
Didn't the teardrop shape come in vertical as well?
No.
No? Okay.
No. Let's highlight that here. The teardrop one, it descended slowly. Yeah, no, there was nothing about that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. There was something about falling fast to the horizon on one of them.
Yeah,
but,
that was the one after.
Yeah. So, interesting. Vertical position, pointed cylinder. That's interesting. Cloth-like construction. I'm very curious what that means, and I'm curious how this guy saw it. Was he looking through some binoculars or something?
That was literally what I was about to ask. Like, how could you tell from a distance that it was cloth-like in structure? I don't.
Yeah, I'm curious on a size, on his estimate of size, because to notice something like that, who knows? It fell into a canyon. That's interesting. I'd like to know what canyon, especially since it's around a place like Los Alamos.
And it didn't but they didn't find anything.
No. Well, they never do.
No.
So the next day, June 8th, 1951, a report from another Los Alamos employee, a large reddish dot, dull appearance, which turned bright green, observed for 3 seconds. A large reddish dot turned bright green. That's interesting.
Okay.
I mean, no idea what it could be, but it is interesting. So we'll move on. This is a subject is transmittal of final report of Project Twinkle. And there's not much to read here, but I did want to point out this was sent to the Director of Research and Development Headquarters, United States Air Force, USAF. Interesting. Enclosed, I'm not sure if that's spelled correctly there. I've never seen it with an I. Enclosed is a copy of the final report on Project Twinkle, forwarded at your request. So this was forwarded to the Director of Research and Development at the Air Force at his request. So no, they're not looking at this at all.
No.
They just requested it. I mean, come on.
Just to have it on file.
Yeah. So
now I really want to know why. Okay. But
what? Go ahead. I'm going to take a sip of Celsius here.
Not a sponsor. You have a wide open.
What do you?
Oh.
What do you want to know why?
I mean, there's a lot of things I want to know why too, but it's more of a rhetorical question. But because it'll never be answered. It's like, why? Why did you want a copy of this if you don't care? But I mean,
right.
Like I said, rhetorical. Never going to have an answer. So.
Well, the point is because they do care, and they just aren't saying shit about
air
it.
Quotes of don't care.
Yeah, they haven't said shit about it for what? Clearly, almost 100 years, almost a century now. We're going on almost a century. This is what, late 40s.
Yeah. So we're looking at like 70, 80 years here now.
Yeah, a century is not too far away.
No.
Don't forget, I mean, this is all after Roswell and all that crap. So it's a well-known... It's a well-known fact that the Russians have been hard at work on several urgent projects to study fireballs. Many years ago, the Air Force concluded a study of the mysterious green fireballs in the southwestern states in the United States. It was called Project Twinkle, but its findings have never been revealed. I'm sorry. The Air Force concluded a study. Well, here we blatantly have it. The Air Force studied it. They're studying UFOs. They were studying UFOs back then. If you think they're not looking into it now, it's bullshit. They need to start coming clean and talking today about stuff that's going on. That
I totally, totally agree.
All this points to me is that they have something to do with this.
Who would have thunk it?
Yeah, it sounds almost like they're gathering data on something they're involved in, and they know what's going on or have a big clue as to what's going on, and they're just gathering data from everyone else on what they're seeing, descriptions and all that. Because, if it is ours, if it's the Air Force's, at some point they're probably going to want to use it in other countries. So they're going to want to see what the data is here, what people are saying about it, what they're seeing, if they can find it, whatever.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what it sounds like. All right, we'll move down. So, unclassified extract of letter from AFCRL dated September 15, 1950. Subject, status of Project Twinkle. So this is to the commanding general at the Air Materiel Command. That's Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Here we go, guys. We got another one. Wright-Pat Air Force Base.
Dayton, Ohio. Okay.
To
As you see, there's
the
a
commanding
Patterson
general.
over in Colorado. That's why I was confused. But that's
No,
the Wright-Patterson.
Wright-Patterson's a major one. They come up a lot in all of this kind of crap,
Yeah, I just lived by a regular Patterson, not a Wright-Patterson in Colorado. There we go.
Allegedly, the with Roswell, the whatever that crashed, the what they claimed was a weather balloon, the day after the guy came out and said this was not a weather balloon. Allegedly, that was transferred to Wright-Patterson. It was taken there supposedly. So, why would it go to Wright-Patterson? Why would it go to an Air Force base if they don't give a shit about this stuff? So, there is considerable doubt in the minds of some of the project personnel that this is a natural phenomena. Ooh. As long as a reasonable doubt exists, it is not wise to discontinue entirely the observations. Dr. Whipple's suggestion that these may be moon reflections on small clouds cannot be discounted. Okay. That fireballs have been observed in the past cannot be discounted due to the reliability of several witnesses. It may be considered significant that fireballs have ceased abruptly as soon as a systematic watch was set up. At present, it does not appear likely that the next 6 months of observations will yield any more information than the first 6 months, but it is felt that even negative information may be significant. That is very true. No information is information. It tells you something. They're clearly already making that observation. As soon as we set up cameras, as soon as we set up shit to start observing this, it just disappears. It's no longer being seen. So, here we see Wright-Patterson again. I'm not going to read it, but what do we have here? Wright-Patterson again? I don't know. Wasn't going to go into this one, but, here we have Los Alamos, a report of the conference held at Los Alamos on the subject of phenomena observed in New Mexico area is forwarded, blah, 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 blah. We don't need to get into that, but, it's recommended that the investigation continue under the Air Force Geophysical Research Program. Okay. Air Force Cambridge Research Laboratory. So we're seeing different portions, different parts of the Air Force looking at this shit. I mean, come on, guys. Project Grudge.
Yep.
Again, to the commanding, to the commanding general, Air Materiel Command, Wright-Patterson, Dayton, Ohio. Attention, Major G.H. Duncan. So we're going to skip down to this. The phenomena has the appearance of a green fireball, and because of the fact that it has been observed only as far as can be determined in the northern New Mexico area and only since the year 1947, has caused a high degree of apprehension among security agencies in the area. 2 reports from the 17th District Office of Special Investigations, Enclosures 1 and 2, summarizes present information on the phenomena. In view of the fact that the phenomena has been observed by independent and trained observers, there is little doubt that something was actually observed. Good. At least they're getting somewhere and they're not just dismissing, Let's see. We're getting close to the bottom here. A meeting at Sandia. Oh, we haven't heard that name in a while. Sandia. Sandia, I believe it's Sandia National Laboratories in New Mexico. Oh, there was one scheduled for the middle of October to continue discussions of the light phenomena. Okay, it's requested that representatives from Air Force Research Laboratories be there. Great. So now we're hearing Sandia's getting involved. There's just little bits and pieces going on here. There's nothing too much that we need to look at here. Some of this might be interesting to read at some point, but March 1950, a conference was held at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which included Holloman Air Force Base and GRD personnel. Action was taken to initiate a 3-point program, which was confirmed by AMG in the form of a letter directive, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, there's Wright-Patterson again on August 30th. 1950, during a Bell aircraft, we already read this, a Bell aircraft missile launching, aerial phenomena was observed over Holloman Air Force Base by several individuals. However, neither land, air, nor project personnel were notified, and therefore no results were acquired. On August 31st, 1950, the next day, the phenomena were again observed after a V-2 launching. Although much film was expended, proper triangulation was not... they didn't get proper triangulation, so that, again, no information was acquired. So that's interesting. 2 days in a row, these were seen during tests. Test of a missile and test of a V-2. I believe a V-2 is a rocket, a missile. I could be wrong. I'd have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Interesting. They were definitely observing.
Yeah. So that is very interesting. Why don't we hit up a like, share, subscribe real quick?
Like, share, comment, subscribe. Really helps us out. Spread the good word to all of the followers. Find more followers for us to spread the good word to. Again, if you have a story of your own, please email us at obscured@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, your personal stories, whether they're of lights in the sky, UAP, UFO, USOs, or even if you had a paranormal experience or if you have someone who's from a lost civilization in your family. We'd love to hear from you.
What was in your family?
Well, I mean...
Wait, so how would you know if it's lost?
Well, there's also like lost languages, like the Isle of Man. Manx is a lost language. The last native speaker passed away in the 90s. So Yep.
Yeah. Send those stories, guys. Sorry, I gotta take breaks. When I'm reading this much, man, I gotta wet my whistle. Woo! Should be drinking water, but
you should.
Well, I got 3 bottles here. I already went through one. I want to point something out on this. So these were both during tests. One of a V2 launching, and one of a missile test. I want to point out there's another story out there, completely legit. 2 guys, part of one of these military entities, whatever, government. I forget the year. We'll have to look this up at some point. But there was some test that was going on with, I believe, some type of rocket or missile. And I believe it was in California, somewhere possibly central or central-ish, near the coast, I believe. Okay. These guys were given this gnarly camera. Like you want to talk about telephoto zoom. This was the shit, They were told to go to this peak over here, which was like a ridiculous mileage away, like over 100 miles, it was far. And they wanted them to record it on this thing from there. These guys did so. And this was a test of something with a nuclear warhead. However, I believe it didn't have a live nuclear warhead on it. Obviously, this was a test. These guys were able to view it from where they were at. Now, obviously, 100 miles away or more, you can still see the rocket launch. Like, you might not be able to make out the rocket, but the smoke is the trail these things leave behind, especially with the lighting's right. Like, if it's early evening and the sun just set, they look crazy in the sky. These smoke trails, they just go all over. It's weird. and you see the plume just coming off of it from the rocket blast and shit. It looks really cool. And
Okay.
so I mean, we see them here. We've seen them here. I remember I was outside once. Mike came over once, and we were outside, and I looked up. I was like, "What the fuck is that?" And there's this thing in the sky with this crazy plume coming off of it, and the smoke trail that looked crazy. Number one, because of how the smoke trail had moved, and because of the light, because the sun had just set like an hour before, so it was still getting all the sunlight from that side, because it was as it started to get high. They look crazy. So these guys were watching it through this camera, recording it, and they said they observed at one point. Now, these guys didn't see this. This was recorded. They didn't see it till after the fact. Something came around the tip of that, near where the warhead is or would be on that, and was flying around it, zapping it with beams of light. They were zapping this thing with beams of light, and it moved all around the warhead a few different times, just pew, 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 and took off. Now, these guys didn't know. They took the video, they took the tape, they went and turned it into wherever, and then it was like the next day or two, they got called in, and they were asking these guys if this was a joke or what was going on, and they showed them the video, and they're like, "We didn't see that." Not much they could see through that anyways, but now if they're watching the video close up, they're like, "We don't know what the fuck was going on." They were told to shut up about it. So interesting, because it reminds me of that. I wish I had the year off the top of my head, but I don't. So this is just a whole nother example of two more situations of the same exact, similar sighting. We don't need to move on because that's it. So, we're seeing so many different names here. Holloman, we're seeing Wright-Patterson, Sandia. I mean, goddamn, Area 51 might as well be in there now. Shit, no joke. So, yeah, this whole thing is interesting. I don't know how you mistake a green fireball for
plane,
other things, for airplanes and this and that. Doesn't make sense to me. We recently saw a meteor or something enter our atmosphere one night when we went for a walk, and it was crazy. It surprisingly, it came in more of a horizontal than a downward. I mean, it was still downward, but it was closer to horizontal, which was interesting. And it was moving, and it had some color to it. At least my wife said. I want to say she said it looked greenish. I didn't notice that.
Common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't notice that, but I caught it real quick. I wasn't expecting it, Obviously, I wasn't expecting it. and we saw it right before and right after, when it got to the point of building up so much pressure from hitting the atmosphere, burning up and all that, and parts of it exploding off. We saw pieces flying off. It was pretty cool.
That is really cool.
But, there's no doubt in my mind that was a meteor or space junk or something, most likely a meteor, I mean, it's a shooting star, your typical shooting star. That's all it was. But these reports are interesting because we have them at different times, and we have very specific shapes seen during daylight, which is good. I question the nighttime sighting, 5 a.m. was probably dark. I question how they are saying there was a shape.
Yeah.
Unless they were saying the light was of this shape, then, there's always more detail that's needed. There's always more questions that need to be answered with this shit. There's never enough questions asked at the time and provided in the reports, and there needs to be. I mean, you want to come to a conclusion, you want the data for future observations so you can correlate everything or not. You need to ask the questions, especially if it's this big, you're spending all this money to investigate this stuff. Well, get as much from these people as you can. Go in there, start asking them questions, and provide those answers in these reports. If you want to start piecing things or try to piece things together, you have to do that. So What do you think? What do you think is going on here? Now, this was only within a few years, but this was even back in the 40s. I mean,
I think it's actually pretty interesting.
yeah.
I'm kind of drawn on it, honestly, because it definitely sounds like there's something going on. What? Not too sure. The fact that it only happened until there was like an observation to catch it set up, and it was like, oh, just kidding, goodbye.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's almost intelligent. Like, oh, like I don't know, observation of like,
I mean,
hey, they're
that's
starting
what
to check us out. We got chill.
yeah, that's what it points to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, but at the same time, obviously, we still have no conclusive evidence, so can't say either way. But
Yeah.
I personally am very 50-50 on it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm always going to go with a common sense approach.
Mhm.
I will never jump to aliens and alien ships, alien drones and all that. You can't.
Mhm.
I mean, you want to have a little bit of respect. I mean, you can't. I mean, just being honest, you can't. What does it look like the most? I mean, well, possibility of natural phenomena. I mean, you have the possibility that we were, our planet was at a point in space where there may have been more meteors coming in, larger meteors that are lasting longer, have a certain chemical, a certain elemental makeup.
A
Possibly,
particular
most
meteor
likely,
shower could be happening at that
yeah,
time.
most likely particular metals in there, and there's a good chance that those asteroids were probably broken up from the same chunk of whatever, and they're coming in at different times. That makes total sense.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes total sense. But then you got these daylight sightings, and those aren't green fireballs. These are cylindrical, pointed, those types of things.
Yeah, tear shaped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I need more detail on that, right? Like, are they trying to say these are grouped in with these green fireballs, or completely different but happen to be at the same times? So there's kind of a couple different things going on here, is what I see. But the fact that we have a bunch of scientists actually looking at this back then, and they are not coming to the conclusion these are just meteors or space junk coming in, I think that's saying something.
Yeah.
Right? So they're already concerned it could be Russian back then. Right?
It's always Russia. I feel like there's always one person who will default to Russia. Always, no matter what. And I love it.
Well, they were probably the biggest adversary at that point in
They're
time.
always our biggest adversary. And I find it funny because it's always Russia.
I'm not a historical buff, but I mean, they were probably one of the biggest ones back then, And the biggest thing that comes to my mind, this type of stuff, whether it be green fireballs or any type of UAP, UFO, a lot of the times they're seen around our military installations. I mean, I don't need to tell you guys this. I don't need to tell you this, Steve. I don't need to tell anybody this. Everybody already knows. But what does that say? The fact that a lot of this happens around our military installations, whether it's directly over or nearby within however many miles, hundreds of miles, doesn't really matter. But a lot of them are very close to there. What does that say? That says it's something of ours, or it's nothing of concern. If it was another country's, possibly an adversary, you'd think they'd be more concerned.
Yeah.
You think if they're talking about this stuff, we'd be seeing in these reports that they were actively trying to do something about it rather than just observe it. So it tells me they didn't really think it's other countries. And what it points to me, just like today kind of does, is this is most likely something of ours, something we're testing, whatever it may be. possibly and probably having to do with the Air Force, or at least they're involved and know what's going on. And just
Super
like today,
secret.
just like today, they're testing this shit out around our military personnel in order to hear and see what they say about
Control
it.
group.
What were their observations? What's the data coming from the humans involved? What's the data coming from the different sensors, cameras, different things that are observing this, radar, all that stuff? And then the Air Force is quiet on it. We don't know. Oh, we don't care. But send us your fucking reports. That's data collection to me. That just sounds like
That's exactly what that is.
Yeah, they're just data mining their own military groups.
It's a control group. That's exactly what it is.
What are they saying? What can they figure out from this? Because we want to be sure that these things can't be identified and can't be identified as ours if we do use them elsewhere besides the United States.
Exactly, which is probably why they're trying to test it against military personnel, because they're the ones who are going to know. Yeah, like I said, they're control
why
group.
you would. Yep. That's exactly why you would, and that's exactly why you wouldn't tell them. People argue that even today with the stuff that's happened in 2004, 2005, 2006-ish off the coast of Southern California, off the East Coast by Virginia, with, the Go Fast, the gimbal, what's the other one? The Tic Tac. All those videos from the military airplanes, and some of these guys, like I believe David Fravor, I could be wrong. I don't want to say that. It might not have been him, but some of them have said, "There's no way they're not going to test the stuff around us and put us in danger without telling us." There's no way.
Yes, the fuck they would.
They'll test fucking drugs on you guys without you even knowing what they're doing. You'll just sign up for a volunteer program. And those will kill you. They'll fuck you up for life. They give you brain damage for life. They've done it. We already did a show on it.
Yep.
I mean, yes, they will. And yes, they still will. They have. They will. Guaranteed. So that's just how it reads to me. But, then again, you look at the main chunk of the story, which is about green fireballs, Project Twinkle. Well, is there really something we have that's causing green fireballs? I mean, what would even be the point of that? Unless it's some type of space craft we have and the shit's just re-entering and landing at one of these nearby military bases or something,
Yeah.
Which I doubt, especially in the day, They're not going to do that shit at daytime. So, I don't know. I mean, look up skyquakes. Google skyquakes, guys, if you haven't heard about skyquakes. This has to do with some type of ridiculously huge alleged spacecraft that we have that re-enters the atmosphere. They landed at Area 51 in the mornings before the sun comes up, and allegedly is on video. I've seen one of the videos, and it looks nothing like a janitor. Looks like nothing more than a Janet Airlines coming in from McCarran Airport, Las Vegas, transporting workers to Area 51, but allegedly they've reported, sensors have picked up these skyquakes, basically earthquakes in the skies, just the rumbling in the skies, which is a true thing. And it's supposedly from this humongous giant spacecraft we have that's coming in early morning hours and landing at Area 51.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, there's correlation because that's around a military base. That shit coming in from space, and that shit that's ours. I don't necessarily believe that one. I'm just saying the story correlates same as this. So who knows? I don't know what to make of the green fireball, but I'm of course you can't come to a definite answer here, but I'm of the idea that the green fireball portion is either natural phenomena, meteors, space junk type deal, or if it is man-made, it's ours.
Yeah.
Definitely prove me wrong. I'll admit I was wrong. I mean, it's just an opinion. Just an opinion, guys. If you don't like my opinion, if you do like my opinion, comment down below. Please let us know. We'll interact with you at some point. Just comment. someone left a comment recently on something. I was asking them for a link on that. If you're listening, give us the link, please, because I want to look it up. I'll try and look it up, but much time will be saved if you can help out with the link to what you saw. And actually, let's look up that user real quick. Who was that his...
You'll probably get to it faster than me.
So this was about the Mexico alleged congressional hearing
comments
with these two little alien bodies. So this was from I'm gonna botch his name. Yeshul's King 88.
Yep.
Who said there's a video online of them interviewing a Mexican man about her. Not guy in green. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not about the Mexico aliens. I'm a dumbass. That's about the crazy plane lady. Yeah, she actually just came out and was on a podcast and
really
talked a little more about it, saying that basically she got in an argument with someone. There was some type of argument with a guy that she was sitting next to or something, and what she said was that, that motherfucker is not real. She's like, it was just a figure of speech. There was nothing crazy going on. It was just an argument. And she was asked to describe what the argument was about and what was going on, and she didn't want to talk about it. But so that's what this was for. This person said, Yeshul's King 88 said there's a video online of them interviewing a Mexican man about her, not guy in green. And I never really thought it was about the guy in green. I honestly didn't know what to think, but that's just what everyone online, social media was pointing to. I'm like, okay, well, if they're pointing to that, well, let's see. Yeah, his eye looks a little fucked up. Maybe it's not. It's just the camera. It's shitty quality. Who the fuck knows? But it's nice that she's coming out and saying some things. So that's what the comment was. Bling bling. So yeah, that's my opinion as of now, and I will change that opinion if more were to come out on this, which, come on, 1940s, 1950s, whatever.
Yeah.
Not as big as Roswell was, so we'll wait. Yeah, I said it. Like, share, subscribe. If you got a personal story of your own, like she told you earlier, send us an email at obscuredr1@gmail.com. Type story in the subject line. Tell us in the body of the email what your story is. We'll tell it for you anonymously. If you want to be on the show, you can be on the show. It's very simple to do. Just call in, and we'll take it from there. You can be anonymous. You can be on video. Completely up to you. However you want to do it. Bling bling works for us. Let's get some fireworks there. Whatever. They're not going to see it. All right. That's it for us, and we're going to catch you all on the flip side.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check back with us often for new episodes. Feel free to drop a comment, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Obscured Reality.